Hello, I'm Carla Brooks, a high school math teacher in Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm completing my master's degree in educational technology at Loyola University, Maryland. Our final project is the chance to put all of the valuable information that we have learned over the past 2 years into one innovation, and I am excited to present to you Making the Most of Desmos. First, a little bit about me. I actually grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, the county where I teach. I have been teaching for 15 years after a 13-year career in doing actuarial work in human resources. I have my BS degree in engineering mathematics from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I absolutely love teaching math, and this program has been phenomenal and could not have been more perfectly timed. The rationale for my project is that our school uses the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program as a as a metric to determine our students compared to other schools, and a graduation requirement. Because of this, the Algebra 1 course and the teachers are examined closely by the administration and are always looking for ways to improve. Another rationale is that our Algebra 1 teachers need tools that help students meet the curriculum. They need to be engaging. They need to allow students to think critically, communicate, and be creative. While precious time has become a commodity in the distance learning environment, we don't mind working together to meet the needs of the students or the school. Desmos has a library of resources and activities that are already aligned to Common Core mathematics, and that will save teachers while planning. This initiative will empower the teachers with the ability to customize from that resources and create lessons that they choose. According to Dr. Donald Eli, who is a theorist in educational technology, there are 8 conditions that are important to be met for an innovation to be successful. For teaching the tech tool, I felt like most of those innovations were met, and I was excited for a successful outcome. While teachers weren't necessarily dissatisfied with the status quo, they were always looking for something new and innovative to help the students. Our teachers have a great skill set, and they knew all of them had used Desmos at some point, maybe just a little bit, but they all had some experience with it. Desmos is free and it's easy to use. The availability of time is where I got thrown off. I believed this condition was met because I wasn't asking that much of the teachers, but in the process of the internship, I was asking a lot more than I thought that I was. So while I thought this condition was easily met, it wasn't quite as met as it should have been, and that's definitely a lesson to learn. The reward or incentives existed because our teachers are always looking for ideas, and I did give them a lesson, which was actually ended up being 2 days that they didn't need to plan a lesson. Participation and commitment was another area where I kind of learned I overestimated the team, and I kind of took advantage, I think, of where I thought that the teachers would be. I won't not took advantage of, but I definitely thought that I would get eager participation. I definitely had commitment from my um, administrative team, and she was definitely on board. She was going to participate, and that really didn't work out because she had to take over another class. But in analyzing this at the beginning, I definitely thought that we were right. Perfect conditions were met for this innovation. Of the Desmos initiative, the members of the team will teach a lesson that's aligned with the curriculum using Desmos. Together, I'll show them how to analyze the data from Desmos, and we will discuss how to use that to identify student strengths and weaknesses. And lastly, we will collaborate together after learning how to use Desmos to create a lesson. So my process, the first thing I needed to do was create a lesson plan, then find the activity. Then I had to have the PD, so the teachers knew how to use that. I allowed the teachers to reflect on the lesson they taught. We looked at the data. Then I taught them how to use Desmos on their own, and then we created a collaborative activity. The first step was to choose the perfect lesson. This was very important for my goals because I wanted the teachers to have a lesson that's aligned with the curriculum that uses Desmos to guide the learning and activities. I wanted to make sure that we were using the TPAC model, so we could incorporate our content, use our own pedagogical skills that we know, and built this into our Desmos activity. I chose the Understanding by Design lesson plan because it doesn't tell the teachers how to teach. It starts with what we'd like to accomplish, and that was perfect for this Desmos activity. There was a little challenge in choosing the perfect lesson that's timed with our curriculum and my internship, and that I could utilize our collaborative plannings each week. This was a bit of a challenge because other meetings took place. Students were testing in grades. I finally found the perfect standard to teach the lesson. Perfect timing for all of the teachers. The next part of my lesson was choosing a Desmos activity that could fit the standard that I chose to teach and be engaging for our students. Desmos has a searchable library of activities. I decided to do a marble drop activity where students had to make changes to a linear equation to hit stars almost like a pinball machine. I utilized what I learned during this program about the effects of digital game-based learning for students. They were playing while they were discovering, and they were able to see immediate success and recognize the relationship between the graphs and the equations. While I thought that the ball drop was a great activity, I found that through searching Desmos. What I did learn, which was very exciting, is that there are a ton of activities out there. They may not be Desmos activities and verified by the Desmos team, but there's a Desmos bank and then on my social media. So I was just so ecstatic to see that I was not limited to just what was on Desmos, and I can't wait to try some of the creative activities that other teachers have created. The third step was to help a professional development for the team to show them the activity and how to use Desmos if they don't already know. I showed them how to assign it to students. I gave them ideas and hints on how they should handle the presentation. And I also gave them some hints while they were teaching that they could use to make sure that this lesson was successful. After each teacher taught the lesson, I sent a Google form and requested feedback. This was very important to me because I could see that what the teachers liked. They liked when the students participate and change the equations. They liked that the students were definitely engaged. They did mention some concerns that some didn't really see the effects of the change. I did find out during this time that I did not make any adjustments for ESOL students and that all learners to be able to get value from the lesson plan. So that was something that I definitely need to take into account. Overall, the teachers definitely enjoyed it. At that point, Objective 1 was complete. The next step was to show teachers how to analyze the data that they gathered from Desmos. For this, I reached out to my personal learning network. I sent a Facebook question, and I heard back from someone that actually works at Desmos, and he offered help on ways to use the data. I decided to use Desmos not as a tool for student activities that I learned. I decided to use it as an interactive presentation tool for adults and to use this to analyze the data for my professional development. So I loaded in a copy of the screen that the data, how they collect the data on Desmos. And as the teachers, I explained what that meant. And then they could each collaboratively answer questions like, how would this help you as a formative assessment? And they could look at the data, which was given like this. I blocked out the students' names and how did the students answer the questions, and how would this help you as a formative assessment, and what else could we use this for? And each teacher kind of put their information in, and at the end we kind of had a collaboration of what all of the teachers thought about the data. And then at the end I asked them, in general, do you think the students have mastered the topic? So I was really excited about this because I thought this is something we could kind of do every time we give an assessment. And anytime we want to kind of look at the data, that this is that Desmos is now not just the tool that I thought it was, it's become more. At that point, Objective 2 was complete. Next, it was time to teach the teachers how to use Desmos to create their own activity rather than using one that was already created for them. The teachers were at different levels, so I decided to go to learn.desmos.com and let the teachers click on Create Your Own Activity, and it gives them step-by-step directions and instructions on what the options are that they can choose to create an engaging lesson. And with each option, it has examples. So I showed the teachers how they could click on the examples, and it not only gives them examples how to use it, but they are examples that they can actually copy and edit and use themselves. Our next collaborative planning, while we were in a breakout room, I took a few seconds to show the team how to get the information. I sent out a shared document where we collaborated on our next required task, and we put input on what we were looking for. And together, we created Selling Tomatoes Part 2, which we gave to our classes last week. Objective 3 was now complete. So my challenges. I really thought that this would not require as much from the teachers that it did. I had one teacher that just never caught up with us where the other four of us were, so he did not participate. I hated following up with teachers and asking them to do one more thing. I didn't think this would be any different in virtual than face-to-face, but there is something to be said for just dropping by. We had our benchmark thrown in, benchmark testing, which took a whole week. Our principal used one of our collaborative planning sessions to ask us to do some more activity for something she needed to present. First quarter ended, so they canceled collaborative planning. Meanwhile, all of the teachers were just swamped. For accomplishments, my biggest accomplishment through this project are some of the processes that I created that I can use again, that I will use again. I've learned a lot more about Desmos, and through my social media connections, I have even more resources than I started. While I was a little disappointed that the teachers didn't learn to love Desmos like I do, they did use Desmos to teach an engaging lesson. They did learn to analyze the data and make decisions based off of that. And most of them got to see how to further their education with Desmos and help to plan a lesson, just like I had planned. Will this stop me? Absolutely not. I learned so much about Desmos, and I learned so much about a team and planning that overall, I definitely think it was a success, and I had a great time, even though it was hard work, a great time with my internship. Next steps are to learn more about Desmos capabilities, continue to create engaging lessons and share them with even more teachers. I'd like to create a site for my school, like Jake Smith, who I started to follow, with all of the Desmos lessons and non-Desmos lessons available for all of us to use. And I'd like to become a resource for teachers that want to learn to use Desmos. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.